to start the recording process right now.
So he just said he was going to start the recording process. So are we recording?
We are live.
Okay. No, we're not.
We're live as in recorded. Current.
He lies again. Okay. You can't trust your producers. They always lie.
We're bastards.
Hello, this is Kevin Cleaser coming to you from Crystal Vision and the World According to Kevin. The last video I did, I had some interesting responses from you out there. It seems like 70% of you think we should just leave Iran alone, and the other 30% of you can't quite make up your mind about what our government's doing about that. But like I said, I'm sure you'll have more vehement opinions about it when you're paying $7 a gallon for gas, which I'm pretty sure is going to be there by the end of summer. Anyway, in response to my last survey, I gotta say, disappointment. Most of the responses were rather juvenile and really not worth repeating, so we're gonna try it again. If you were to vote today, who gets your vote? That's simple. Obama, Perry, Santorum, hey, throw Palin in there if you want, or Gingrich, or anybody else. Just curious to see who you think out there should be getting the nod to run this mess over the next 4 years, because to tell you the truth, I don't know who's playing God and selected these people to go ahead and run as our new leader and the leader of the free world. If you believe that, I've got another bunch of land I can sell you in Florida as far as them actually being anything even resembling leadership, because we don't get leadership anymore. We get same old, as I've been saying for the last 25 years. It's the same government, just different people shuffled around into new positions. Anyway, so there's that. And now I wanted to talk briefly about this explosion of interest in Kony 2012. I spent a lot of yesterday doing research because I had my own ideas about what was going on in Africa, and I have for the last 35 years, because guess what? It's the same old loop over and over and over again. Despot takes over a country, pick a country, Algeria, Libya, Egypt, Yemen, Somalia, Sudan, Chad, Niger, Liberia, country we set up, by the way, the idea being that all the freed slaves were going to go back to live in Africa. That didn't quite work out the way they planned it. Nigeria, Central African Republic, which has basically got no arable land to grow anything on, and why there's even a country there is still beyond me. Congo, which is what this Kony 2012 came out of, and the genocides and the arming and kidnapping of small children to go fight wars for the warlords in the area. Anyway, Angola, Namibia, Zimbabwe, Mugabe, anybody remember that name? Who took over, used to be Rhodesia, basically kicked all the white farmers off their land. How's their economy working these days? Not very well. South Africa, just there was a program the other day about talking about the fact that they're actually giving orders shoot to kill because the crime rate has gotten so bad in the urban centers. And then of course there's Mozambique and Swaziland. So Africa has never recovered from the vacuum that was left in the 1950s and 60s when the colonial rulers of the last 150 years exited those countries and gave their freedoms. We have a constant recycling of warlords taking over. We have aid going into countries that doesn't get past the army to the people that's needed. We have constant pleas for money for the different broken societies to try to support people who are starving because of this ineffectual leadership. And the cycle has been going on and on with no resolution in sight as long as I've been alive. So my question to the audience today is sending any support for any of these broken governments that don't help any of the people in need, really a responsible, pragmatic thing to do. I know nobody wants to see starving children suffer. I don't, that's for damn sure, but if the problem isn't being resolved by all this magnificence, shouldn't it be time to close the door on any resources going into these countries or coming out of them till these governments reform and actually start meeting the needs of their people? Instead of giving foreign aid to these corrupt governments and these despots, shouldn't we be closing the door on them instead? Just something to think about. Because I don't pretend to have all the knowledge, because when you break societies over 150 years by putting them in servitude to an overlord, you're going to have repercussions. Let's say in the United States that halfway through our genocide of the native population that we had stopped and just everybody left. You think they would have had problems reassembling their societies? I think so. So I think part of the guilt that you're seeing as far as trying to throw money at the problem instead of solutions is part of that history. Just like our history as far as civil rights in this country, how we can't get over it to move forward. Just curious about what you think about that. I'm pretty much staying away from the elections tonight because nothing happened any differently. We're still talking about contraception and the Preventative Care Act, which, let's face it, President Obama threw that out there a month ago, just as red meat to the right, and the right, like the morons who are running in this election, took the bait, and they've been beating each other up with it for the last month and a half, driving all the independents right out of their minds, so there's no way they can find it within their hearts to vote for any of these people to overthrow Obama. So with this weak field, that's why I asked you that question. We've only got 8 months until we have the next general elections where we're going to be stuck with the same system for 4 years. Are any of you satisfied with that? Do these new economic numbers of 227,000 new employees in February really excite you when you still have no money and a decent job and you have no way to figure out how you're going to pay to support your kids as they approach college? Which is another issue that we go back to when you talk about the student loans that are destroying that generation of educated people, so they've got the next 20 years of their lives to pay off $500,000 debts. So the problem just keeps feeding in on itself, and until I see a change in how we approach these problems, which to me is to change the conversation. Why is nobody talking about ending the war on drugs? Why is nobody talking about closing Guantanamo Bay anymore? Why is nobody talking about the one thing we can do progressively as a society, instead of spending $1 trillion a year on our military, being policemen to the world? Why aren't we taking some of that money and seeding it over to private space enterprises so we can get the fucking space and have a new adventure to look forward to, instead of sitting here and killing each other for the diminishing resources? And talking about global climate change, well, folks, this globe has been changing its climate regularly for the last, 4 billion years. It's going to continue to do it whether we're here or not. So why don't we start focusing on something we can do something about right now, which is stop pissing the money down the rat hole in our military and the industrial military complex, going to war. We're in 38 countries right now with military installations, and the information I tracked down, the Department of Defense probably does not even know how many military bases. The question is between 714 and 1,100 military installations worldwide at this point. How's that being funded? It's being funded with debt. It's being funded with money we don't have, that's being taken out of things we need to do, like rebuilding our infrastructure, like trying to figure out how to build the technology to move forward. So like I said, we stop beating the shit out of each other on this planet, because let me tell you, it's just going to keep getting worse if we keep populating this world with more people and we don't have a direction forward. So that's my question to you. If we have to move forward, what direction do you want us to go in? Instead of spending $1 trillion a year on war, where would you put $1 trillion? Would you put it back in the American public's pocket like I'd like to see? Would you like to break down all of these social programs that the United States government is now feeling obligated to do? Would you like to see maybe 100,000 less surveillance cameras on the streets monitoring your every move? Would you like to see the tracking device taken out of your phone and your car, so as a private citizen you can move around in anonymity like you should? Or are you for all of this information that's basically making us slaves to the government? The more information they have on us, the less information they tell us about what they're doing. Our government has become so secretive, there's nobody that's making any decisions from the general public that have any sway on our government. That's servitude. That's the same thing going on now, full loop back to Africa. You think the people on the ground in Africa have a say in their lives? No. They get their lives snuffed out just because they belong to the wrong tribe. You don't think that could be happening in the United States in the next 50 years with all the power we're giving our government without question? think it's time you start asking those questions. And by the way, do me a favor. I'd really like to have this conversation on our own network, which is crystalvision.com, one word, Z instead of an S in vision. Because I'm telling you, the comments I get from YouTube, 2 weeks, no news, and then one day, boom, I get 100 comments, but it's a week after the fact. So do me a favor, if you would, take a little bit of time, check out our website, because we've got some essays that I've written on there that speak to these issues, as well as a platform. I wrote a platform which I would like to see enacted as far as it's the Crystal Vision Revolution about how you reform the federal government. And in the case of California, same there, because as I've said before, I don't think California is any different than the federal government at this point. They take all your money and they give you nothing back in return except for the loss of more of your civil rights. So that's pretty much what I got to say tonight. Once again, if you were to vote today, who gets your vote? I won't even repeat the names because you know who all these motherfuckers are. And once again, who picked them to run for president? My God, they couldn't find better people than this to run this damn country? Please. Thank you. Talk to you later.